Hey everybody, it's Melissa here from Renz, and I'm here with my co-host Flint today. Thanks for joining us for another Vendor Friday series. Today we're talking with Vanessa from Royal Canin. She's going to let us know a little bit about the company, some of the products, then of course we're going to answer your questions. So I'm going to pass it over to you, Vanessa.
Thank you. So yes, my name is Dr. Vanessa Tun, and I am a scientific communications veterinarian with Royal Canin. And I am so happy to be here with you on this lovely August day to talk about nutrition. And since it's summer, I'm actually going to start off by asking, do any of your viewers ever have the question of, what did you do when your dog is scratching, and does it ever drive them nuts?
Yes, actually that is a question that people come in all the time with to the stores with, whether or not it's allergies or if it's something environmental. We get that question all the time.
Yeah, and sometimes we have people that their animals are literally waking them up in the middle of the night because they're just licking and scratching so much. So unfortunately, as pet owners, we are all more than familiar with problems such as this. And so we really like to hear about cases such as with a 14-year-old Labrador we had recently who suffered from seasonal itchiness his entire life. And after transitioning to a diet that was nutritionally formulated to support and nourish his skin. For the first time, he is actually managing to get through the summer season without scratching himself bald, and he's even managing to go off the allergy medication that he had previously required twice daily. And it's this visible transformation that is possible when you find the right nutrition for an animal. That's actually how Royal Canin came to be. Royal Canin was founded in 1968 by Jean Cathray, whose first nutritional success story was a German Shepherd belonging to a breeder visiting his practice. And he recognized that the chronic skin issues the dog was suffering from was the result of improper nutrition. And he was able to successfully manage his patient's skin issues by developing a balanced nutrition formula. And although Royal Canin has now grown to include 16 manufacturing facilities around the world, including our one in Puslinch, Ontario, Royal Canin continues to hold the pet at the center of everything we do while leading the industry in nutrition innovation. We reject industry trends and marketing claims and focus on providing pet owners with a diet that is safe, nutritious, and tailored to their pet's needs.
And I have personally been to the facility actually in Guelph. And for all of our viewers who haven't been there, the facility is absolutely amazing. It was really cool to take a walk through and see some of your manufacturing processes and how clean the facility is and how you get all the raw materials and sort of put it all the way through to a kibble with so much of a science background. I think that's something that I always think of with Royal Canin is how it's kind of more of like a science-based food, and you can really see that with your manufacturing, your labeling on your bags and everything.
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of our core beliefs.
That's great. So I just had a couple questions myself, just for our viewers at home. A question that we always get at Ren's is how many protein sources does Royal Canin have?
Wow, that's a big question because of course we have to consider it's looking at ingredients, and so we have lots of different types of protein sources. But keep in mind that one of the fundamental beliefs at Royal Canin is nutrients over ingredients. And so what we are designing is we are looking at creating a balanced formulation that is appropriate for that individual pet. And we'll choose appropriate ingredients to fit those nutrient requirements. So rather than saying we want this diet to have these particular ingredients, we won't say, no, we want this diet to have these particular nutrients, and it is these ingredients that are actually going to be able to formulate that diet to make it appropriate for that particular condition. So we have lots of different protein sources out there, but it's really more of the nutrients that we're looking for rather than the individual protein sources.
Right, that makes total sense. Another thing that I find really cool about Royal Canin is how you have really breed specific food. So I personally have a Bengal and you have Bengal cat food. And I don't know why, I've always been really fascinated with all the different kibble shapes and what was sort of the inspiration to come up with that breed specific types of kibbles?
Yeah, it was actually a cat that was our first inspiration. I believe it was the Persian that we noticed that a lot of those Persians, they have very flat little nosed faces, and a lot of them were really struggling to pick up traditional kibble. And so the kibble science actually came from watching these cats eat, and then we actually decided to formulate. We tried a bunch of different kibble types, and we have videos of the Persians eating all the different kibble types, and we found a particular kibble shape that actually allowed these cats to be able to pick up their food and chew their food in a more appropriate manner. And once we started with the Persians, we started looking at all the other types of breeds as well. So most of our breed formulations will have very specific kibble that is designed for that individual breed and how they pick up their food and chew their food, and whether it's because they have a short nose face, or whether they have maybe a long nose, or maybe they have a scissor bite. All those kibble formulations are designed with that particular breed in mind.
We do have a couple questions from our audience. Our first question is from Katie, and she says, we're getting a puppy in a few weeks, and she wants to know if there's a specific formula for puppies.
And it is a great question, and it is one that highlights the importance of selecting a diet that is really appropriate for your pet. So the short answer is yes, absolutely. But in order to best answer which formula we should be selecting, we need to consider some really important factors that are going to allow us to make what's called a nutritional assessment. And that helps us find the best nutrition for your pet. And these factors include patient factors, diet factors, and then feeding management and environmental factors. So the patient-specific factors we need to consider is what breed of puppy you're getting, the age, maybe the gender, what kind of activity level are we looking at? Is this going to be a household pet that's staying close to home? Is this going to be a working dog? Are we looking at particular sports activities? Is there any ongoing medical conditions? Hopefully with a puppy, we're not seeing any of those. And then what's the weight of the puppy as well? When we look at diet specific factors, this is absolutely when we start looking at our puppy specific formulas. So we need to make sure that we are looking at a diet that actually is formulated appropriately for the growth of that puppy, and ideally formulated for the growth of that particular size or breed of puppy as well, because different breeds of dogs will grow a little bit differently. And then finally, we need to look at those feeding management and environmental factors. And that's, how much is being fed, the methods being fed. Are we free choice, or are we offering meals? Is it a multi-pet household maybe, and is there competition for food? And those are all the different factors that we need to consider when we're looking at trying to find the right nutrition for a particular pet. And once we have a better idea of the pet's individual needs, we can then determine if we want to select a breed-specific puppy formula. And that kind of calls back to the discussion we had previously. It's formulated not only for the growing puppy's needs, but also some of the unique factors of the breeds, and that can include skin and coat quality, joint health, that muzzle shape that we talked about, or maybe we're looking for a size-specific puppy diet, which is formulated for optimal growth of your puppy based on its size. And so some examples, I like the Bulldog puppy formula because, again, it has that really unique kibble shape in order for those puppies to be able to pick up and chew their food, but it's also formulated to support digestive health and joint health. Or we could be looking at Giant Junior formula, which is actually designed to support the prolonged growth phase of some of our giant breed puppies. And alternatively, if your puppy is diagnosed with an underlying health condition, your veterinarian may actually recommend a growth formula that is designed to manage that particular condition. And these factors change throughout your pet's life. So what's right for your puppy right now is not going to necessarily be right forever. And as your pet matures, it will need to transition to an adult formula. But when that happens, really kind of depends on the breed. As I said, our larger breed dogs go through a longer growth period than our shorter breed dogs. So they generally need to be on that growth formula for a longer period of time. And so it's important to remember that the right nutrition for your pet will change as your pet changes, and make sure that we're actually finding something that suits them at this particular time.
Great. So the long and the short of it is if you are getting a new puppy, so Katie, your new puppy, there is a formula that is going to be perfect for your puppy. So make sure to head into the store talk to one of the associates or call Royal Canin. I know they have an amazing service line that you could always kind of have these discussions with, and they'll be able to match you with the right food for your puppy.
Absolutely. You know, there's lots of sources out there. We are happy to help, and I know you guys are also very happy to help at Ren's.
Yes, definitely. Our next question is, how many meals a day should a cat have? Mine seem to want to eat all day, which is a very common cat issue.
Yes, the feline appetite. I'm very familiar with cats who seem to think that they're always hungry. And it does make sense because in the wild, cats actually use a great deal of physical and mental activity on food capture. And that includes locating, stalking, chasing, pouncing, killing, preparing, and then finally eating that prey. And due to a very low prey density, they're normally eating 10 to 20 very small meals per day. And so obviously most of us cannot be feeding our cats this many meals throughout the day, but there are some things that we can utilize to try to help replicate some of these natural behaviors. And one of those is automatic feeders, which can actually be set to auto open at specific times throughout the day. And so you can measure out your cat's daily food amount, divide it up into however many feedings you want to do throughout the day, and then let the feeder do the work, even when you're not home. Alternatively, you could also use puzzle feeders, which are great because not only do they provide mental stimulation to our cat and they mimic some of those activities that they would be doing in the wild, such as capture and preparing their food, but they also increase the amount of time it takes for a cat to eat a single meal. You know, most cats will gobble up kibble or canned food in a minute or so, but when they have to work to get the food from a puzzle feeder, they will actually spend a greater amount of time and energy on the eating process, which again is much more similar to their time spent in the wild when cats will spend over 4 hours a day hunting and eating. And it's also important to remember that sometimes when it seems like cats are begging for food, they're actually just looking for attention and stimulation. And so, you know, having a play session, providing those puzzle feeders are great ways to do that. But there are some diets that can help with hunger if you feel that your cat is truly hungry. Diets such as the appetite control spayed neuter formula is actually formulated with increased fiber and a low density kibble to make cats feel fuller longer. But again, if you are concerned that your cat's increase in appetite is abnormal or maybe just something that's really new, you may want to see your veterinarian for further guidance.
Our next question is from Heather. She wants to know, what is the correct amount to feed her dog because he is an active dog and somewhat finicky at times?
Yeah, so the amount is always a bit of a tricky thing, but every dog is individual. There are general feeding recommendations that can be found on the back of every bag. And so like the back of the bag, it's gonna be hard for you guys to see, but we do have feeding instructions. And these instructions are based on the weight of the dog as well as the activity level as well. And so, you know, my dog, for example, she's 20 kilograms, so that I can actually look at the 20 kilogram mark. You know, she's moderately active, and so it says here this particular diet she's going to need either 231 grams or she's going to need 1 3/4 cups. And you'll notice that a lot of our food has the volume based on both grams and cups. And the reason for that is because there's a lot of different ways that we can measure out food, and some of those are actually more sensitive than others. And so we actually recommend measuring out food based on weight rather than volume, because that can actually be more sensitive. We actually had a pet owner study where owners were asked to measure out pet food using a scoop, using a measuring cup, and then also using a gram scale. And their inaccuracy range from using the cup and the scoop was either 48% underestimation, so they weren't giving enough food, to a whopping 152% overestimation. So they were giving a lot more food than they should have been. And you imagine feeding that extra food every single day, it's going to lead to potential weight gain and obesity. So gram scales are definitely the most sensitive way of doing that. And so gram scales are very, very easy to do. Most you know, kitchen places will have gram scales. A lot of owners will already have these in their house because they'll be using it for cooking. When you are using a gram scale, make sure that you place whatever container that you're going to be feeding your pet already on the gram scale, and then turn it on and zero it. That way you're no longer taking into account the weight of the actual dish. And I'm actually gonna prove that gram scale theory for us right here. So I'm gonna take this cat food here. This is a 1/3 cup measurement. All right, so we have our 1/3 cup measurement here. You guys can see that it's pretty full. Based on what I know of this diet, I know that 1/3 of this particular food should weigh 29 grams. And so when I pour this in here, it's hard for you guys to see, but I can tell you that it actually says 31 grams. And that's actually pretty close. That's only 2 grams higher than it should have been. But that is about 10% more than I should have been feeding that cat. And if you can consider that 10% every single day for over that cat's life, that is going to potentially add up. And that was close. As I said, sometimes we'll be measuring closer to 152% more. So using the gram scale, I know that I'm looking for 29 grams. I can actually remove the excess kibble and I can get myself down to 29 grams. And then I have, this is actually all my cat's feeding for the day, but that would be my cat's feeding allowance. And so measuring with a gram scale is pretty accurate. And you can utilize the instructions based on the bag. Again, they are used generally meant to be a general estimation. Obviously, our pet's individual needs may vary if you have a very active pet, if that pet has a very high metabolism. So again, if you really are concerned about how much to feed your pet and you feel that maybe you're feeding a lot more than the bag says and your pet doesn't seem to be gaining weight, or maybe you're feeding a lot less than the bag says and your pet doesn't seem to be losing weight, then again, that might be an excuse to go see your veterinarian and talk a little bit about nutrition and make sure that you're feeding enough for that individual pet's needs.
Thank you so much for joining us today on our Vendor Friday video. Thank you so much to Vanessa at Royal Canin. We learned so much today, and make sure everybody comment below, let us know what you learned today. And of course, we're going to be doing a giveaway. So read our description because I believe we're going to give away 2 gift cards on this video. So make sure you comment, let us know what you learned. And thanks for joining us. Bye.